don't worry folks, it's not lost on me that a middle-aged balding guy, such as myself, is going to do a guitar lesson on glam metal or hair metal, how to play hair metal guitar. Seems appropriate. But this was the stuff I grew up with. I'd love listening to bands like Motley Crue and Poison. So much great guitar riffs came out of here, great guitar playing, great guitar techniques. It was really a very fertile time for guitar players, and I'm really glad that I was able to grow up in that period of time. For inspiration for this Inspired By song, I listened to a band I haven't listened to in a long time called Vixen. And what I borrowed from them was this idea that there's different scenes in the song, different sections have kind of their own tonality, if you will. And that's kind of lacking, in my opinion, about today's music. A lot of times we're using production techniques to try to keep the listener interested and adding instruments in and out. And basically, though, the chord changes are almost always the same between the verse and the chorus and the bridge. There's really not a variety of chords that are happening. Well, back in the day here, and something that if you want to bring back, is to go ahead and be bold and switch keys if you want to in the middle of a song, just to keep the music interesting, if you will. Or if you're trying to paint a different picture with your lyrics. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and that's what I really appreciated. So this song has, in my mind, kind of three different sections. The first section has that riff, a riff-based type of idea that we're kind of used to hearing in this style of music. The second part kind of goes into more of a whole note power chord type of thing, but the beats are anticipated to keep the energy going. And then the third part is more of a chugging eighth note type of idea, and then back into the first section of the song. So let me go ahead and start breaking down these sections for you so we can see exactly what makes up this Inspired By song. So the first scene is kind of based off of this E tonality, an E power chord. I'm not saying that we're really playing an E major or E minor, we're just playing a riff kind of an E. And to get into this riff, I'm using a very common technique back in the day, a real challenging one, but it is sliding in to create a little energy and then going into the riff. And another thing that I'm doing is I'm palm muting, so I'm taking the fleshy part of my hand and I'm resting it on top of the bridge, so it's not all open like this. You can see that it can get really kind of muddy sounding, and it doesn't add the articulation that you kind of want. So you're using this palm muting. So your palm, your fleshy part of your hand is resting on this bridge. And you'll also notice, though, I'm kind of lifting it up every now and then, and this is a feel thing, it's something that you'll just get used to, and adding a little bit of emphasis to certain notes. So they're not totally... They're not all muted. I'm kind of choosing, again, where I want that articulation to be. And another thing you can add to this, if you wanted to, was another technique, which is a pinch harmonic, which is where you're going to pick a note. And all that I'm doing there is, I'm using the pick part first to hit the string, and I'm following up with the fleshy part of my thumb, just grazing that string, and it's going to add that little harmonic sound. And you can experiment where you want to find those notes, and it's really a lot of fun just to do. It's kind of a technique that's not really used too much these days, but it is a fun one to play with. So after we do this riff, I'm basically going to play an A chord, some punches, and then kind of a blues lick. Back into riff. And this was very common. You kind of had these power chord ideas mixed with blues ideas in these types of songs. So again, here we're playing an A. We're going to hit the G and do a slight bend. Kind of just tweaking it a little bit. Open A, and then the C, and a slight bend to imply the C sharp. right back into the And again, you can add that slide if you want to. And that's really the first section or the first scene of the song. So for the next scene, in my mind, we're changing the tonality of the song. We're going to start on a B flat, go down to an F, and then to a C. Some more of those hits. B flat again, F, C. And for me, this is kind of hovering in F major land. My kind of ear here is a 4, a 1, a 5. And you'll notice here we're doing that anticipation of the beat. And basically what that means is instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to go into that next chord, the measure before, slightly early. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear I'm kind of picking it up. And it just adds a little bit of momentum to the music, just to keep things going. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift, and I'm going to move up to a D. And you'll notice we had that D in the initial riff. So the listener's used to hearing that, but it's a little bit of a modulation change, it sounds like, because you're so used to hearing this F tonality. And you're like, whoa, where are we going to go next? Well, we're going to go into the next section, the third section, which to me hovers a little bit around G. But what's weird here is we're kind of doing some chords that really wouldn't be found in G necessarily. We're playing a G to a B flat, which is common between those the F chord, I'm sorry, the section with the F tonality. So this is really, you can look at this as maybe the flat 3 in G, because in G we'd have G, B, D. We're playing the third flat. And the F is a very common thing that you would have in this type of music, which is, if it is the key of G that we're playing in, that's just a flat 7. We've heard that a lot in blues and rock and all sorts of music. And this part has more of an 8th note pumping thing happening. And there all I do is a chromatic run up from the F sharp, G. And you can hear I'm still anticipating the next measure of music by getting into that chord early. Jump to the C, back to the D, and then we go right back into the initial riff section. So that's the third section of the song, going back into the riff section. Let's talk a little bit now about the second guitar part that's playing over some of these sections of music. The first one, playing over the riff, what I wanted to do was, a lot of hair metal singers did that cool little like screaming lines in their songs, so I wanted to emulate that a little bit on the guitar. And again, we kind of have this E tonality, and I'm going to start on the D, the flat 7, and do a slow bend up to the E. So again, it's more of like a vocal singer. Probably scared all my cats doing that. But anyway, it was a slow bend. When you get to the pitch, then add some really wild vibrato, which was very common. And it's okay to have some noise because it adds to the aggression of the guitar sound. And you'll also notice I'm really doing a lot of muting here. I have my palm part of my picking hand laying here, my fingers that are kind of supporting the bend but also behind it are muting the high E string. So the next time this lead guitar kind of comes into play is over the F tonality. I'm really kind of outlining the chords. There's the D flat. There's the F. And I'm going to play the C. So again, you can hear those chord changes in that lead line. And then I do another palm muting technique. And that's a very common thing. You have this style of playing where you have the open note, opener. The sound's more open on the notes. And then you'll add some expression and articulation by incorporating a palm mute when you want. And I slide back down to make it that B flat. Another slide to get to the F note. So it's kind of the same notes played again, but I'm doing a different technique to get in those notes just to make it sound a little more interesting and also pick up the energy of this part. So again, it goes. Because that's what the chord changes do. So again, just outlining the chord changes and add a little bit of articulation with a palm mute. For this section of the song, you'll notice that I'm outlining the chord changes. But I'm not playing them flat like that. I'm sliding into them. Again, adding more of a vocal quality. Maybe I was subconsciously thinking I was a heavy metal singer and I was playing these parts. But you'll also notice I'm going to incorporate what I kind of call a slur slide, for lack of a better word. So you'll notice the first one is a normal slide. And I slid up to the B flat, and I did not pick again. I was a one pick. And some nice vibrato. And here's that slur slide. And you'll notice that slur slide has a little bit of that pinch harmonic happening behind it. So for me, it just added a little bit of excitement and expression to this part. Same thing again. And I believe I go up to the A when the chord changes to the D. And to finish the song off, we're back to the lead singer just screaming their heads off. And you really can go wild with the vibrato to end the song. So for me, some key takeaways from this style of music is be bold with your song sections. Go ahead and incorporate different tonalities into your music. If you have darker lyrics, maybe you're going to do a darker chord progression. And if you go to happier lyrics, let's say in a chorus, then go ahead and change the key if you want to. Experiment, just have fun. Always use your ear as your guide. Another thing to do is play with some attitude. You notice there's a lot of wide vibrato, some slides, some articulation with the palm muting. All of these things are techniques that you can use to express yourself on the instrument. So you don't always have to play the notes the same exact way all the time. You can spice things up even in the middle of a certain phrase. You can add so many different nuances that really make it your own sound and your own unique voice on the guitar. Another fun thing to do is experiment with anticipating the beat to add a little bit of energy to your music. You don't always have to start on the first beat of every measure, your chord changes. You can actually anticipate the measure before. Now, as always, I'm going to leave in the description down below the practice tracks, and there's going to be 2 tracks. The first one is the full band, so you can play these guitar parts along with it, and the second one is just bass and drums, and there's a little bit of a keyboard sound in here, so you can come up with your own ideas over this chord progression. And if you have a really cool burning solo, because I'm not really a great masterful lead player, to be honest with you, If you come across something and you want to record it and send it to me and tag me in it, please do. I would love to hear what you're doing. So rock on with your hair metal or glam metal or whatever you want to call it.